Tonight, what you need to know about the pre-holiday strike threat at one of Canada's largest airlines. The showdown between Air Transat and its pilots, and when the job action could start.
A December strike will be catastrophic.
Plus, the weather-related travel chaos after Atlantic Canada gets slammed by its first major winter storm. Never-before-seen images of Jeffrey Epstein's private island home in the Caribbean. What the new images reveal. And what a cherished children's entertainer is calling his musical response to the times.
We never thought that south of the border democracy would be challenged by the rise of fascism.
ABC democracy.
What's behind Raffi's newest song and how he answered this question. Are you scared about the state of the world?
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. One of Canada's largest airlines has hit major turbulence with its pilots. The union representing them saying today its members have voted overwhelmingly to strike, and that could happen as soon as next Wednesday, right before the holiday travel rush. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver on the labor clash and what's at stake.
There may soon be fewer Air Transat flights on the runway. This time next week, it's roughly 700 unionized pilots will be in a strike position.
A December strike will be catastrophic because capacity is already saturated. Other airlines like Air Canada and WestJet are flying full plane for the holidays.
This holiday, millions of people are expected to move through Canadian airports, and many will be boarding Air Transat flights. The timing, experts say, puts pressure on an airline already struggling financially.
They're going to push Transat to the wall. Transat's going to realize that the loss of revenue and the impact on market share will be such that paying the pilots would be the least of the least worry for Transat.
The strike threat comes nearly a year after talks began. The pilots are pushing for pay raises, job security, and better working conditions. In a statement, the union says, "Let us be clear, we do not want to strike. However, after nearly a year of slow bargaining and little progress, we urge management to utilize the remaining time and negotiate seriously to avoid operational and flight disruptions." The airline says it's confident an agreement can be reached. Although this is a common step in the collective bargaining process and does not mean that a strike will be initiated, we remain fully committed at the bargaining table and aim to reach a tentative agreement without labor dispute.
97% of these negotiations result in no disruption of labor. So let's hope that they continue to have those conversations in earnest and protect their industry, their employees, and of course the many passengers that are relying on them.
Air Transat says its operations are currently running as normal. Both sides have to give 72 hours notice before either a strike or a lockout. Omar.
Annie Bergeron-Oliver at Ottawa's Macdonald-Cartier International Airport tonight. Many in Atlantic Canada are digging out tonight after a massive winter storm. Heavy snow, strong winds and ice pellets knocked out power to thousands, and a major highway was shut down, snarling traffic. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry.
Dozens of truckers stuck in gridlock after a snowstorm this morning. A series of accidents on Nova Scotia's Highway 104 stopped traffic completely for hours.
I've been driving for 8 years now, and I've never actually been in that situation where I had to sit that long alongside the road.
Commuter chaos in every Atlantic province. Police and PEI said they received more than a dozen calls about cars going off the road, all before 9 a.m. Thousands lost power today, the majority in Nova Scotia, but high winds hit power lines in every province.
Cold, damp, no power for quite a while, actually, this morning.
Ferry services across the region were cancelled, including the Marine Atlantic link between Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. It all made for a snow day for thousands of children in all four provinces. Many government offices were closed too. Quiet in downtown St. John's for almost everyone.
I'm like a seamstress, so I make custom stockings. So I actually get to Santa's workshop. These stockings need to get made before Christmas. It's sort of pressing. I mean, I had to ship them out. So I didn't need to do this, but now that I've gotten most of the way here, I'm doing it, right? I'm going.
There is still some risk of disruption here in St. John's. Those high winds are set to continue until at least early tomorrow morning. Omar.
All right, Gareth, thank you. The federal government is in the process of sending out almost 70,000 employees retirement incentive letters in a push to shrink the public sector. The government is using a voluntary early retirement program to try and boost the rate of attrition without cutting the jobs of younger employees. The letter says further details about the program's requirements, timelines, and how employees can express interest will be released. Donald Trump's tariffs are to blame for Algoma Steel's decision to lay off 1,000 workers in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario this week. Yesterday, CTV's Heather Wright looked into the impact for that city, and tonight she's crossed the border into Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, to speak with Americans who say the tariffs are also hurting them.
Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario is technically a city, but people who live here say it's more like a small town.
I've been seeing anxiety in a lot of people's eyes for a long while now.
Dan Trevisanute knows his neighbors are hurting, and so he's discounting haircuts and beard trims for Algoma workers impacted by Monday's layoff announcement.
It's the least I can do, and a little bit of affordability to offer these people dignity, because they'll be looking for jobs, and there'll be a lot of people just going to be in a bad way.
1,000 people are set to lose their jobs, a direct impact, the company says, of Donald Trump's tariffs. Tariffs that are hurting people on the other side of the St. Mary's River in Sault, Michigan.
Definitely, there's been a pinch.
Jennifer Riatoire has owned the mole hole for more than a decade, but in the last year she's watched as tariffs have squeezed her margins.
Some of our vendors do try as well to absorb it for a while, but ultimately they pass it on to us. We absorb what we can, but we also can't absorb everything. There's just not enough room for it, and so everybody pays for tariffs.
While tariffs are most acutely felt on imported hard goods, prices have also risen at the grocery store.
Everything is going higher, and we're doing okay, but I think there's a lot less fortunate people that have to really struggle.
Back across the border, there are concerns about the impact the Algoma layoffs will have on the broader community. At Peter Ma's normally busy restaurant, this week has been extremely slow.
This is a steel town, and everything is based on Algoma Steel. So if we're laying off 1,000 people, that's a big number of people. You know, we only have 72,000 people here.
The Algoma layoffs don't go into effect until March 23rd, giving affected employees a little less than 4 months to find a new job. Omar.
Heather Wright in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan tonight. And a BC pulp mill is laying off hundreds of workers right before Christmas. We'll bring you that story later in the show. ICE agents are arresting people in New Orleans tonight as part of Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. And in Minneapolis, the Somali community is living in fear after some inflammatory rhetoric by the U.S. president. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin.
The arrest began in New Orleans, Operation Swamp Sweep, targeting undocumented criminals. But the new mayor says what is sweeping the city now is fear.
What they're seeing is what appears to be racial profiling of brown people, and then going after these individuals and treating them like they are these significantly violent offenders.
In Minnesota's Twin Cities, a show of force on the streets, just one day after the president ramped up his attacks on Somalis. Comments shocking, even for him.
It's a hellhole right now, and the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain.
Minneapolis is home to the nation's largest Somali population. Most are naturalized U.S. citizens, but the tensions are high.
You know, the saddest part for me was just trying to answer my daughters and saying that why are we being singled out.
Federal ICE strike teams say they're enforcing deportation orders after dozens of people were charged in a major fraud investigation. Local businesses have shut down, and at lunchtime, empty seats as restaurants closed.
Targeting Somali people means that due process will be violated. Mistakes will be made for no other reason than the fact that they look like they are Somali.
After last week's targeted attack on National Guard members in Washington, the president is cracking down.
The Trump administration is suspending all immigration applications for people from 19 so-called high-risk nations, including Somalia, Afghanistan, and Venezuela, effective immediately. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. We are getting a rare look into the private island that Jeffrey Epstein owned after the U.S. House Oversight Committee released never-before-seen images and videos of the property in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's where Epstein allegedly sexually assaulted and trafficked young girls. The images show various rooms inside, like this bedroom, a phone with several names on speed dial, a large shower stacked with pillows, and a room with a dentist chair with masks on the walls. The footage was taken in 2020 by local authorities and comes ahead of a December 19th deadline for the U.S. Department of Justice to release its Epstein files. A doctor who pleaded guilty to selling ketamine to actor Matthew Perry in the weeks before his fatal overdose has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. Prosecutors were asking for a 3-year prison sentence for Dr. Salvador Plasencia after getting a plea agreement where he admitted to selling Perry large amounts of ketamine, knowing he was a struggling addict. Perry's mom, Suzanne, and stepfather Keith Morrison wrote a letter to the court slamming, quote, greedy jackals for taking advantage of Perry, calling Plasencia the most culpable of all. He's the first of 5 people to be sentenced in connection to the Canadian actor's death. A Calgary high school student is under investigation tonight, accused of using AI to generate sexually explicit images of teen girls, some of them as young as 14. Here's CTV's Kathy Lee.
The photos online may not always be real, and in the age of artificial intelligence, the consequences for teens caught in digitally fabricated images can be devastating.
We need people to understand that this is not a joke, it's not a prank.
The stark warning after sexually explicit AI images of young girls from several high schools in the Calgary area were investigated by police. A Calgary teenage boy now faces multiple charges for making, possessing, and distributing child sexual abuse and exploitation materials and criminal harassment.
They're all high school age students. Under 18, I would say safe to assume between 14, 15 and up.
Investigators searched the home of the 17-year-old student last month, seizing 2 phones, a tablet and a laptop. They say he used real photos loaded onto an AI app that created fake sexualized images with the victims' faces and shared them online.
I think it's weird making something of what it's not.
It's kind of silly. I think it impedes people's privacy.
The disturbing incident not surprising for some child advocacy groups who say it's a growing trend.
It started about 2-3 years ago with the public release of a number of new AI tools. I think more accountability at the App Store level from these companies is really important.
People educating parents who in turn really should be the ones educating their kids.
Police aren't naming any of the schools involved because it might identify the accused or the victims. Police say the teen was released on numerous court-ordered conditions, including no contact with anyone under 16 years of age unless through school or work. The suspect will be in court in January. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
An Ontario City councillor is facing charges for allegedly uttering threats to a potential mayoral candidate. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is in Clarington tonight, a municipality making national headlines.
Clarington is a picturesque Ontario town east of Toronto, though here, the political arena is anything but quaint and calm.
Drop out of next year's mayoral election, or she would come to my house and kill me and sexually assault my wife.
I have a quick question.
That threat allegedly delivered by local Clarington councillor Karina Trail.
You received that voicemail. What is your initial reaction?
Shock. You don't expect a sitting councillor to be leaving a message like that.
The political controversy has escalated to criminal charges. This news release issued by police confirmed that today, Councillor Trail was arrested and charged with 2 counts of uttering threats.
Looking out the window every night and not being able to sleep.
A former police officer, Tom Dingwall, has been eyeing a run for mayor in next year's municipal election. In August, he says he received a disturbing voicemail, allegedly from Councillor Trail. He claims the woman's voice warned him to stay out of next year's election or else. The voice also said that Dingwall should support a rival candidate.
That purpose was to intimidate me and dissuade me from running.
After the claims went public, Dingwall says he received a second voicemail.
Trying to explain why she had done what she did.
He says he shared both messages with police. The story then took a sudden turn. Councillor Trail went public, claiming that portions of the voicemail were her voice, but other parts were artificially generated with AI.
You've never altered the audio on that voicemail?
No, I actually handed my phone to the police. They did a forensic download of my phone, and they have the original recording.
As of this evening, Karina Trail is still listed as an active member of her town's council. We reached out to Councillor Trail today to give her an opportunity to comment on the charges. She's yet to respond to our request. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Coming up.
To get that news right before Christmas is devastating.
What's behind the closure of a historic BC pulp mill? A pulp mill at the heart of a Vancouver Island town has become the latest casualty in Canada's struggling forestry sector. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson tells us why.
Most people in Crofton, BC can't remember a time when there was no mill.
It's been an institution of Crofton since the 50s. It's a very big change.
Very upset. I mean, it supported our family and so many families in this town.
Now, 3 weeks before Christmas, 350 workers have learned they will soon be out of a job and the pulp mill will close for good.
It's a real punch to the gut for our whole community. To lose a good union job like this is tough any time of the year, but to get that news right before Christmas is devastating.
Mill owner Domtar says the mill has been losing millions for years, and U.S. tariffs that have been hammering the softwood lumber industry aren't the issue. Instead, the company is blaming government regulations, saying logging approvals that used to take weeks now take years, and they've actually been forced to source wood fiber from the U.S.
It's cheaper and it's more readily available and dependable in terms of its supply, and so that should give an indication to British Columbians of where we're at.
The official opposition claims the NDP government has been using the Trump trade issues as a scapegoat.
Tariffs aren't the issue. That's all we've been hearing in the House. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's this government's fault.
Today, the Premier acknowledged forestry is in a tough spot.
The combination of pine beetle, the need to protect old growth, forest fire, and low prices is incredibly challenging.
The Premier says the BC government will try to figure out a way to keep the mill open and salvage those good-paying jobs. But for now, Domtar will turn out the lights December 15th. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead. How this raccoon's wild night ended on a bathroom floor. A convenience store in Virginia has fallen victim to an unusual masked bandit. The store sharing these images on social media of the damage caused by a raccoon after it crashed through the ceiling. But the furry intruder didn't just smash those bottles, he also drank a little too much and passed out in the store's bathroom. The party animal was taken away and released back into the wild after he eventually woke up. The songwriter and guitarist behind some of the most well-known songs of the 20th century has passed away. Steve Cropper, whose hits include Green Onions, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and In the Midnight Hour, died today in Nashville. The cause has not been released. He was 84 years old. Still ahead, Raffi gets political.
ABC Democracy.
What's behind his new message to kids and their parents?
1, 2, 3, democracy. A right to live, a right to be, choosing well, living.
For many families across the country, listening to Raffi's Christmas album is an annual holiday tradition. But this year, the beloved children's entertainer is singing a very different tune. I sat down with him at Toronto's Royal Conservatory of Music to hear it.
I think the current times that we live in stress us out. I know this from my own experience. I hear it from friends and colleagues. These are tough times.
Baby beluga in the deep blue sea.
For decades, his songs have served as musical companions to millions around the world.
Baby beluga.
Young fans, now parents, sharing Raffi's voice with their own children.
There are beluga grads now in tens of millions of homes, and they often tell me what an emotional experience it is for them to relive their love of my music with their own kids. And that's music to my ears.
ABC democracy.
But his latest release is more political, a response, he says, to the times we're living in.
We never thought that south of the border democracy would be challenged by the rise of fascism. I never, ever thought this would be the case. It's really important for families to be inspired to learn about a citizen's duty to keep a democracy alive and strong. Democracy is not a spectator sport.
When you see the state of the world right now, it seems as though people are becoming more tribal, more polarized.
You know, in our times, it's so important for us to remember our common humanity. Nurturance, love and compassion, empathy, inclusion, diversity. When we see one another as family, the human family, when we see our children as universal beings of light who are here deserving the best we can give them, the best nurturance, that's how we thrive.
Turn, 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 turn this world around.
He hasn't been one to shy away from teaching life lessons to children. This song, inspired by the words of Nelson Mandela.
Green dream, I have a green dream.
Another creation called Green Dream is what he calls an anthem for a green future.
Salam shalom.
And this one, reminding the world about what unites us.
Side by side we live, salam shalom. It's about peace. Salam in Arabic means peace. Shalom in Hebrew means peace. It's all right there for us to embrace.
Are you scared about the state of the world?
I pray every day to be of service. I do the best that I can to make the most positive statements with my songs.
But are you praying harder these days?
I pray daily for gratitude and for inspiration.
'Cause your friends are my friends are your friends.
At 77, he's also championing music education. He was recently a guest panelist for a symposium in Toronto, where the Royal Conservatory launched its music education program for babies and toddlers globally.
We need to invest in our children and invest in our communities and invest in our society. And I think that doing it through music will have very dramatic effects on democracy.
As somebody who chose not to have children, you have this remarkable ability to connect to millions of children around the world. Where does that come from?
Learning that a young child is a whole person, deserving of respect, was the key learning of my life. Respect has been the core value throughout my career. That's why I've never done any commercial endorsements. I've learned so much over the years, and I'm grateful to be able to put that learning into practice, musically, joyfully.
A musician who's still got a lot of soul. And that is a snapshot of this Wednesday. Heather Butts is here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching, and good night.